Aloha, this is Santa surfing. Welcome to Beach Broadcast. Today is Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. I want to thank more letters that came in and ornaments. You know who I'm talking about, but that came in. I just thank you so much. It's the sweetest. Just, you guys are just so wonderful. Please include your phone number if you are sending a letter. I am going to have the address for our Mainland mailing address. I'm going to have that on our website, so it will be added back on. I had to take it off when Charlie Kirk incident happened, and it was for protection purposes, but we'll have it back on our website. So my oopsie on that one here. You know me, I kind of go squirrel here. But okay. Oh my gosh. It is showtime. I'll tell you why. Because President Trump, remember, those that will take us to the promised land, this includes you, are the ones that don't sleep. So, which is you. President Trump, he double posted many videos, and that's what this whole podcast is about. So who he is exposing is pretty big. Again, this podcast doesn't have an article, but it does have a video of highlights of the clips. I watched not every single one. Each of the videos that you will see. He posted 65 videos. I only put up 64 highlight clips because one was a repeat. But he is exposing Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar looks like she's going to get her citizenship stripped, and she is going to go get the big old boot back to Somalia. But can she get to Somalia? Was she a refugee of Somalia, or is she actually trying to escape Somalia because of what her and her family did to the people of Somalia? Exposing Tim Walz, exposing Nancy Pelosi, that her staffer was telling a couple of people on a podcast that her staff, Nancy Pelosi's staff, was planning January 6th for 2 years. Autopen, and how all of those that executive orders and pardons are now null and void. Exposes Obama, and there's going to be more documents coming out. Exposes Big Mike, also known as Michelle Obama, for using the Autopen for 4 pardons. Exposes asylum seekers. They are not going to have their asylum cases heard. It also exposes those that have a naturalized citizenship, and how those citizenships could get revoked. They get stripped of their citizenship and deported back to whatever country they came from, or whatever country will accept them. So yeah, it looks like the storm is upon them. Should all of these things really start to snowball, again, we're just at the very, very beginning of this month. The 19th of this month is the big file, not just list of people, but files that are going to get released. A lot of things are going to happen. We know it's going to get very, very rocky and very, very oogly, but at the same time, it's going to get uglier for them. So, watch these videos, and then go ahead, and at the very, very tail end, there is actually in the middle part is when they talk about Michelle Obama. So all those that use the Autopen, are they going to get caught as well? This really exposes a lot of the swamp rats. Oh, and it also exposes John Brennan being a part of 9/11 too. It's pretty big.
Many are asking whether this was sedition or treason. But there is a third statute, one that fits their actions with mathematical precision. 18 U.S.C. Section 2387. Activities affecting armed forces. It prohibits, and this is word for word, advising, counseling, urging, or in any manner causing or attempting to cause insubordination, disloyalty, mutiny, or refusal of duty by any member of the military. Penalty: up to 20 years in federal prison. This law is not retaliatory politics. This law is not about defending one man. This law is about defending civilian control of the military, the backbone of the republic.
The fraudulent spending of $32 million out of the pockets of our American people and threw it down the drain to knowingly chase ghosts, all for political gain. This man occupied a position of the highest trust and authority. As chair of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff launched an all-out political campaign built on baseless distortions against a sitting U.S. president at the expense of every single citizen in this country and the honor of the House of Representatives. With access to sensitive information unavailable to most members of Congress and certainly not accessible to the American people, Schiff abused his privileges claiming to know the truth, while leaving Americans in the dark about this web of lies. Lies so severe that they altered the course of the country forever.
You know what's interesting about the Somalian deportation? They want to remove the protective order. The person they need to blame is Ilhan Omar.
Trump's remaking the United States of America. We can start there with tariffs. What are we talking about? No tacos for Trump. The effective tariff rate, get this, 18%. It is the highest, Omar, the highest since the 1930s, up from, get this, just 2% last year. As I'm going to talk about in this segment, I can't think of a more influential president during this century, and it starts here with tariffs. He said he was going to raise tariffs, and despite the claims otherwise, he is in fact doing that. The effective tariff rate at this point looks to be 9 times as high as it was last year.
In these third world nations, they don't have systems like we do. So a lot of these Afghanistans, when they did get here and get vetted, they had no identification at all. Not a single travel document, not one piece of identification. And we're going to count on the people that run Afghanistan, the Taliban, to provide us any information who the bad guys were or who the good guys are? Certainly not. And many people need to understand that most terrorists in this world, most of them, aren't in any database. Because unless they were found on a battlefield by DOD when the retina scan and did biometrics there, unless you're part of a T3 undercover investigation, we don't know who they are. So
expected a flurry of new immigration decisions, not only targeting people from expected a flurry of new immigration decisions, not only targeting people from Afghanistan, but also halting all asylum decisions until further vetting can't be done.
Paid people, this is organized, they're committing acts of political terrorism on American soil, and it's time we had a government that looked out for the American people rather than the people who are committing violence against the American people.
When you go out to Portland and you see what's happening in Portland, this is like nobody's ever seen anything like it. Every night, and this has gone on for years, they just burn the place down, and you know, the shop owners, most of them have left, but the few shops that are open, they just use plywood and just like 3/4 inch plywood. They don't put storefronts because they know it's going to be burned down. These are professional agitators.
That's right.
These are bad people, and they're paid a lot of money by rich people, some of whom we know.
Not a day goes by I don't think about it.
Trump's longtime assistant shares what happened after the shooting.
I'll never forget him dropping to the ground, shots being fired, him going down, and then him fighting through the Secret Service to get up and not only get his shoe, as you heard on the mic.
Let me get my shoes.
But the way he got up and lifted his fist and yelled, "Fight, fight, fight." That's his spirit, and that's the way that man is behind the scenes. Fight, fight, fight. He's been doing that all his life.
Yeah.
And then they brought him in and brought him to the hospital. I picked up his hat because the hat fell to the ground, gave it to him in the hospital. And he's there on the phone wanting to know how you guys are doing, how the family's doing. He cared about the people that were in the room, the Secret Service agents, myself. He's a warrior. And that's who the American people have leading this country.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness.
But I want people to understand something. As somebody that wore the uniform, as somebody that fought in the Middle East, there are people that want to see the end of this country. End of discussion. And if we don't take this seriously, we're going to continue to see more dead Americans. What disappoints me the most is that there are 13 senators, Republicans, that voted for this refugee program. And I also want to commend J.D. Vance for not voting for this program, because at the end of the day, he understands what it means to keep Americans safe. I don't want to be called xenophobic. I don't want to be called racist. I am an American that wants to ensure that we save the lives of my fellow Americans and stop evil demons from trying to destroy us.
You've now probably heard political experts over and over refer to the fact that what we're witnessing is a color revolution. And they're right. And let me explain why. A color revolution is a communist globalist playbook to take over a country without tanks actually rolling down Main Street. It's how they flipped places like Serbia, Georgia, Ukraine, and they tried to flip a dozen others. The same exact playbook every single time.
If you're a California taxpayer, you're going to get really pissed by what I'm about to share with you. And if you're an American voter, you got to get really worried if Gavin Newsom ever becomes president. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state legislator, and my office is releasing independent budget data today showing that not only does California have an $18 billion deficit, but it's largely driven by free health care for illegal immigrants that Newsom and California Democrat politicians cram through the system.
What do you mean by reverse migration?
It means get people out that are in our country, get them out of here. I want to get them out. We got a lot of people in our country that shouldn't be here, and they came in through Biden, and he was the worst president in the history of our country. But the single biggest thing he did was allow millions of people into our country that shouldn't be here. Drug dealers, prisons were opened up and allowed to come into our country. You take a look at the people that were allowed to come into our country. We're paying a big price for it, and we will for years to come, including the recent killer of two wonderful National Guards people. And I'll tell you what, that animal should not have been allowed to come into our country.
And Brett, this just breaking right now, the Secretary of State and the State Department are announcing that they have revoked 80,000 visas, American visas, in the year 2025 so far. We get a partial breakdown of those. I will read a couple to you. 16,000 visas revoked for DUI, 12,000 visas revoked for assault, and 8,000 for theft. We also know about 8,000 student visas for foreign students studying here in the United States have been revoked.
Just as importantly, bringing back impoundment will give us a crucial tool with which to obliterate the deep state, drain the swamp, and starve the warmongers, these people that want wars all over the place, killing. They love killing. And the globalists out of our government. We're going to get the warmongers and the globalists out of our government.
Message to these foreign terrorist organizations is we will treat you like we have treated Al-Qaeda. We will find you, we will map your networks, we will hunt you down, and we will kill you. And you've seen that evidence in the maritime domain, whether it's in the Caribbean or in the Pacific with the last two strikes. We know exactly who these people are. We know what networks they work with, what foreign terrorist organizations they're a part of. We know where they're going, where they originated from, what they're carrying. And they know we know. And that will soon start to change the calculus of these boats. So the critique of this is, of course, as often is the case, wrong. We know our authorities. It's locked tight, and we're going to treat them like foreign terrorist organizations on the offense.
The Pritzkers and the Newsoms and the Governor Steins there in North Carolina, perhaps there is a glimmer of hope that they may realize that, but I'm still not hearing what I want to hear from those elected representatives to quell down this violence, to quell down what's happening on the streets. Kylie, oftentimes they will say something like the masked bank robbers that you just had on your earlier clip. They'll say something like that, and we'll hear it on the streets a mere few hours later. So they need to do a much better job in quelling down that rhetoric so that these National Guard members and law enforcement aren't put in jeopardy, which...
Let's take Ilhan Omar as an example, okay? She comes from a family, and they call her a refugee who came from Somalia, right? They call her a refugee. Let's take Ilhan Omar as an example, okay? She comes from a family, and they call her a refugee who came from Somalia, right? They call her a refugee. Her family were the governing party, the Marxist Islamist government in Somalia, who were overthrown and then fled. Now, technically that makes her a refugee, but she wasn't fleeing oppression, or rather her family weren't fleeing oppression, they were fleeing justice. They were fleeing their own people, holding them to account for the dictatorship that they had established. So you have people like the Omar family, and what do? Do they come to America and see America and go, okay, this is pretty cool. They're not oppressing each other. Let's be part of this. No, they go, hey, how can we oppress them? You know, how can we bring Marxism to America? That's the thought process, and it may be a passive thought process, but it's the thought process.
Hey sports fans, AJ Kern here. I recently received a letter from the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services that I'd like to share with you in a moment. But first, a little background. In 2019, Ilhan Omar changed her birth year from 1981 to 1982 on her Minnesota State Legislative page, Wikipedia, and her U.S. congressional page. Well, Ilhan Omar claims that she obtained citizenship when she was 17 years old, meaning that she's claiming she derived citizenship through her father. How it works is an adult refugee, they apply for citizenship, they go through the process, and when they naturalize, their minor children derive citizenship through that parent.
President Donald Trump announcing he is going to terminate all of Joe Biden's Autopens. This is spectacular, and I'm going to tell you why. The media is all over this shit already. They're like, he can't do that, right? But what if he does? Well, the Democrats have two choices. They can either allow him to do it and admit that Joe Biden was not of his right mind and capable of running the country, or they can sue him to say, you can't do that. And of course, President Trump is anticipating them to sue him. But here's what happens when they do. Donald Trump and the DOJ now become privy to discovery, testimony, internal logs, medical records, staff communications, Autopen records, all of it under oath.
President Trump, this is just happening, posting on Truth Social moments ago that he is canceling all of former President Biden's executive orders, saying he was not involved due to the Autopen process. Let's bring back.
President Trump has done more to crack down on illegal immigration and to strengthen our legal immigration system than any president in history. Several months ago, he announced a travel ban on 19 third world and failed state countries around the world. Secretary Newsom announced tonight she's recommending that travel ban widens and covers more countries around the globe. Special immigrant visas, which we know many Afghans have used to come into our country, there has been a complete suspension and pause on all of those. If you look at the entire visa process in general, we have greatly strengthened and heightened the vetting process and requirements for that under Secretary Rubio's leadership at the State Department. And he has used his authority, which is unprecedented, to actually revoke the visas of many individuals who, yes, came here legally, but still pose a risk to our country and should have never been allowed in the first place. And I would just remind people around the world that coming to the United States of America is a privilege. It is not a right.
So the Biden Autopen scandal is blowing up because it exposes who was really running the country for 4 years. Y'all like the video right here. Follow for more. Let's get into this one. So you look at the numbers and you see thousands of official actions with one problem. Biden did not sign them. Staffers used an Autopen while he was hidden, monitored, staged, propped up, and shielded from the public. Trump saw the pattern, read the records, and canceled every order and pardon that was not directly signed by Biden.
There are moments in American politics when the ground doesn't just shake, it breaks. And in Minnesota, over the past few days, the break has been loud enough to rattle Washington, terrify Ilhan Omar's inner circle, and trigger one of the most aggressive federal responses we've seen in years. Because what investigators uncovered wasn't just fraud. It wasn't just corruption. It wasn't even just another welfare scandal. It was something far darker. Minnesota taxpayer money traced into the hands of a foreign terrorist organization. And the moment President Trump got briefed, he didn't hesitate. He didn't stall. He ordered what some are calling a direct federal takeover of the situation, including an immediate termination of protected status for nearly 1,000 Somali nationals. And when Ilhan Omar heard it, her reaction said everything. The panic, the denial, the collapse. Today, we're going to break down exactly what happened, why Minnesota erupted.
His government is going to accelerate efforts to review every person added to this country over the last 20 years, or the last 4 years, all 20 million. Now, obviously, if you're illegal, you're out automatically. But everybody else who was brought here, refugee, asylum status, whatever status, as he said, if you're not someone who loves this country, if you're not adding benefit to this country, then we're going to send you out of this country. Because it's enough already. No one else has to die. No one else has to be murdered. No one else has to be shot. No more empty seats are needed at the Thanksgiving table or the Christmas table because of what Democrats have done to this country. So
people say to me from time to time, Randy, you don't like him, you just are against immigration. And I look at them dead center and I say, no, I'm not. I wouldn't be here without it. My grandfather and my great-grandfather came over from Germany on the boat in 1903. We have the manifest. My grandmother to Texas, went through New York and came to Texas. My grandmother's family came over in 1845 and settled in central Texas. If that hadn't happened, I wouldn't even be here. But, folks, they did it legally. So I want to thank you all again for bringing this up, Dr. Babin, this Birthright Citizenship Act. Let me tell you something. The radical left is going to lose their friggin' minds over this. I can't wait for it. They're spinning the same tired narrative, calling President Trump and Republicans heartless and cruel and inhumane for daring to address the issue of birthright citizenship. And now, 22 states are suing to block Republicans from overturning this deeply flawed policy.
Republicans just filed the Judicial Accountability Act. Any judge who releases a violent repeat offender on personal reconnaissance or low bail, and then that offender commits another felony within 12 months, automatic federal charges, up to 10 years in prison, permanent disbarment. Think about that. For years, violent criminals...
We just sent 11 warships down to the coast of Venezuela. That's almost 15,000 troops on board, okay? Those ships, or in support of, are well over 100 aircraft on those things. We currently have 8 to 10 million pounds of munition, bullets, bombs, rockets, you name it. We have a lot, okay? Oh, FYI, this is just one of our 11 carrier battle groups, should we need it.
Also asking Congresswoman Craig to initiate an ethics investigation into Congresswoman Omar because of questions about federal tax fraud, federal immigration fraud, federal student loan fraud, and state violations of perjury, bigamy, kickbacks, and acts of campaign fraud abuse in Boston, Washington, New York, Chicago, and Florida. For speeches she gave while she was in violations of state ethics or of the Minnesota House ethics rules regarding colleges for speeches she gave while she was in partial control of their budgets as a member of the House Higher Education Finance Committee in both 2017 and 2018. Also asking Congresswoman Craig to initiate an ethics investigation into Congresswoman Omar because of questions about federal tax fraud, federal immigration fraud, federal student loan fraud, and state violations of perjury, bigamy, kickbacks, and acts of campaign fraud abuse in Boston, Washington, New York, Chicago, and Florida. There are also violations of state ethics or of the Minnesota House ethics rules regarding colleges for speeches she gave while she was in partial control of their budgets as a member of the House Higher Education Finance Committee in both 2017 and 2018. She was found guilty of the violations by the Minnesota Campaign Finance Board 3 weeks ago in order to return those funds on June 6th. Ms. Omar appears to be a serial career criminal and should not have access to our nation's highest secrets and intelligence. That is why I'm calling on our Congresswoman Angie Craig to protect both our national security and our respect of the rule of law. Tax fraud and campaign abuse fraud from the East Coast. That is why I'm calling on our Congresswoman Angie Craig to protect both our national security and our respect of the rule of law. Tax fraud, immigration fraud, student loan fraud, perjury, bigamy, kickbacks, and campaign abuse fraud from the East Coast to the Mississippi River. If those charges have been
a U.S. citizen. Can we denaturalize her? She pretty obviously committed immigration fraud by marrying her brother. Omar is accused of and has never credibly denied that she married her brother to get him legal papers. In 2016, following up on a tip posted on a local.
Did you know that Trump offered 2 paths to citizenship for Dreamers during his first term, but it was the Democrats who rejected it? Well, that's the problem with the Democrats, is they'll spend all their time and energy to try to stop Trump from getting a win, even if it means a win for their own people.
Joining me now to react is the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Director Gabbard, give me your response to what we heard from former President Obama there. He's saying that none of this makes any sense, that this is a distraction. What do you say to that?
It's the art of deflection.
Former military members starting to speak out.
This is Buzz Patterson. I'm a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, retired Air Force pilot, combat veteran, and at one time I was the military aide to President Bill Clinton and carried the nuclear football and actually lived in the White House. I am very appalled at what the Sedition Six has done with their video. I think it's a violation of their oaths of office, and especially in the case of Senator Mark Kelly, I believe it's a violation of the UCMJ. They use their positions, military and in the intelligence community, to expose, I think, and put at risk those of us who serve in uniform. In my estimation, what they did was treasonous and seditionist, and I hope they are prosecuted to the full extent.
Well, President Trump, he is dropping the hammer on the Muslim Brotherhood as he signs a new executive order aimed at designating certain chapters as foreign terrorist organizations. And friends, it's about time.
Tonight from President Trump, the breaking news here tonight is saying that his government is going to accelerate efforts to review every person added to this country over the last 20 years, or the last 4 years, all 20 million. Now, obviously, if you're
going to start in Minnesota, where a scandal is engulfing Democratic Governor Tim Walz. And we have to start with acknowledging the dogged reporting of Christopher Rufo on this. He broke the story, and he's forcing the mainstream media to follow it. The situation involves fraud across multiple sectors of the Minnesota state government, with taxpayer money winding up in some truly horrendous hands. It begins with the state's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services, or HSS, which allows for Medicaid funding to be used for housing. Now, when it started in 2020, the cost of this was $2.1 million. Next year, it was $21 million. Next year, $42, then $74, and finally, a $61 million program in the first half of 2025 alone.
Fox to reveal what's really going on. Doge exposed our immigration asylum disaster. That was the tip of the iceberg. Now, here's the story. Doge has found that immigration gave a work authorization document to illegals just 5 months after they filed for asylum. That document allowed them to work while they waited to hear whether their asylum request had been accepted or denied. So,
shit's heating up in Minnesota. Tampon Timmy, you are going down. This just out. Listen, this story is not coming from conservatives. It's not coming from right-wing media. It's coming from staff inside the Minnesota Department of Human Services, the very people who've seen the rot, the corruption from the inside out. Now they're saying enough is enough. Screw this piece of shit sitting in the state office. We're going to expose him for the jackass that he is.
About how Somali immigrants in Minnesota have been ripping off American taxpayers. In fact, 86 people have been charged in a rampant and widespread fraud scheme spanning multiple programs in Minnesota. Of those 86, 78 of those people are Somali, 91% of them charged.
Let me tell you, Tina Peters is a really good woman. I know her personally. I consider her a friend. Her son died in the line of duty, active duty. Navy SEAL, I believe he was, and to throw her behind bars, the same corrupt people in Colorado who were behind the election malfeasance. And when she was trying to say, we're going to collect the evidence and make sure that we are responsible to the voters and the taxpayers, they throw her in jail for that, in prison for that. She's a woman who's got health problems, and I'm afraid if we don't get her out, that she'll die behind bars.
But with loose rules, it led to widespread fraud. And you can see there, balloon in federal payments headed to Minneapolis to north of $100 million.
Joining me now to react is the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Director Gabbard, give me your response to what we heard from former President Obama there. He's saying that none of this makes any sense, that this is a distraction. What do you say to that?
It's the art of deflection coming from former President Obama, as well as his friends who are still in Congress today, and Senator Warner and Congressman Jim Himes, really all basically saying that exact same statement, which doesn't actually address the issue that was revealed in great detail in the over 100 documents that we released last week, in the documents that we will be releasing later this week, that point to the undeniable fact that you laid out in your introduction to this segment, is that the intelligence community had one assessment, that Russia did not have the intent or capability to try to impact the outcome of the U.S. election leading up to Election Day. The same assessment was made after Donald Trump was elected by the American people as president in 2016, defeating Hillary Clinton. And it wasn't until after that pulled President's Daily Brief document that you referenced that the Principals Committee was called in the National Security Council, and President Obama then directed Obama's DNI James Clapper to lead the effort.
Will you deport people with pending asylum claims, Madam Secretary?
We will if they should be, absolutely.
A $250 million fraud scheme. Already 77 people, many of them Somali immigrants, have been charged in one of the largest taxpayer-funded scams in U.S. history.
Touch the sound of silence, and in the naked light I saw.
As always, Emily, go ahead. Thank you. And Director Gabbard, this one is for you. Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment.
We might not have a king, but we definitely have a queen.
There's so much sketchy stuff about John Brennan. He was the station chief. There's so much sketchy stuff about John Brennan. He was the station chief in Saudi Arabia and actually signed the visas for half of the terrorists that crashed the planes into the Twin Towers.
Well, yeah.
And then he comes to back to the U.S., and he ends up director of the CIA, and now we see that his fingerprints are all over Crossfire Hurricane. They lied to Congress, they lied to the American people, and they did it out of pure, sheer greed and lust for power.
Now to what's being called devastating news. That's the reaction just in to crimes a former Minneapolis chamber leader is accused of.
Jonathan Weinhagen is facing federal fraud charges tonight.
Callan Gray has been digging into the accusations. She's live in Minneapolis right now with what she's found.
Somali welfare queen Ilhan Omar called me out for exposing the massive and widespread welfare fraud being perpetrated by the Somali community in Minnesota. The other day, I made a video uncovering their latest $500 million fraud scheme that stole taxpayer money intended to help children with autism and funneled it to an Islamic terror group.
Everyday Americans heartless all you want, because I'm going to tell you something. We don't care. We don't care if your feelings are hurt now. We don't care if you are homeless now. We don't care where the hell you need to go to get back where you're going. We don't care.
There are some people who will never assimilate into this country, whether it's because of cultural irregularities or their refusal to submit to Western values. We should not insist on bringing those people into the country.
Why Donald Trump will deport Ilhan Omar. Donald Trump warned America long ago that one day the truth about Ilhan Omar would come crashing down like a hammer. And now, with Trump back in charge and the emperor finally seated on his throne again, the crackdown on immigration fraud is no longer a threat. It's a reality. And Ilhan Omar, well, she might want to start packing before the music stops.
You wrote the governor. This isn't some DoorDash delivery guy. You wrote the governor of your state. Why didn't you turn this over to us when you were asked to submit documents?
So, Senator, I made every effort to search for everything that I had ever signed. That's not a letter I remember, but I will certainly take a look at that. And
we found it just with a search on the internet.
Thank God that Kamala Harris is not president of the United States.
When the United States government and agency heads want things to disappear and want things to be buried and hidden, they know how to do it. But what they didn't count on was President Trump winning, him electing leadership across the United States government to say, go find out how they corrupted and weaponized law enforcement. And that's what we did. That's what we're doing. That's how we found it. And
if you voted Democrat, like I did, you voted for a party that does not exist anymore.
Forward looking. We were planning when I was working for Pelosi. I don't know that this has ever been made public, or I've never said this publicly, but planning for a January 6th type of an event 2 years before it happened.
They're now turning on their former bosses, which shows they know they're done. I mean, explain how big a deal that is to have their top people, because it's not just, they've already gone to the White House. Then when the White House says, well, then go show us. If we were to trust you, go public. They're now going public. So explain what happened last week.
Well, networks, a general rule is networks under pressure break down. They start breaking down, people turn on each other. So just by keeping the pressure on over a long time, it's breaking down. People are off trying to make their own deals. People are not, roll early, roll often. When you're in a mafia like this, you want to be one of the first guys to roll. It doesn't do you any good to wait till other people have given up the information. But yeah, they recently came out, Michelle Obama, in the last days of Biden, Michelle Obama went in and used the Autopen. I think there were 4 or 5 pardons she gave. And then you'd love to see, who knows if they charged $1 million a pardon, who knows how that's so illegal. That is so illegal. But they've gotten away with murder.
So for these people, they cannot have you ask questions of substance because everything is built on a lie. Climate, all those climate programs, all built on lies.
Think about this. $250 million fraud and scandal scheme coming from the taxpayers of the people that live in Minnesota, being orchestrated by the community of Somalia that has been allowed to roam around free over there, sending it overseas, back to Somalia, into the hands of Al-Qaeda forces, the very same forces that want death to America.
That's why I get really angry when I hear Ilhan Omar. You come over here and then you say that this country is dirty and a dictatorship. How dare you do that? You had nothing to do with the creation of this country. You came over here because this country offers you more security, more prosperity than any other country in the world. And I get so tired. I mean, we're always told, properly so, that a naturalized immigrant has the same claim on America as a nativist born many generations. Yes, that's true, but we ask in exchange a simple requisite. If you come over here and you come across the border, do it legally, but more importantly, have some sense of gratitude that you made that decision.
One of the documents FBI officials allegedly found in the burn bag were the classified annex, to former special counsel John Durham's final report, which includes the underlying intelligence that he reviewed. Why would that be so critical? To me, that's critical.
Because it likely reveals many of the government actors who instigated and corruptly spread the phony collusion narrative despite knowing it was totally untrue.
It's very simple. And most of the experts in D.C. really don't get it.
How dare we speak Merry Christmas? How dare we?
Well, guess what? We're saying Merry Christmas again.
Why do you blame the Biden administration?
Because they let him in. Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person? Because they came on a plane along with thousands of other people that shouldn't be here, and you're just asking questions because you're a stupid person.
Can you read your response?
I approve the use of the Autopen for the execution of all the following pardons. Thanks, Jay-Z.
Did you yourself write this email?
I do not believe I did.
The people from different countries that are not friendly to us and countries that are out of control themselves.
country. We don't want them.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bobby Bartels. I'm a proud member of Steamfitter's Local Union 638. And like many of my fellow union members, I've been a Democrat my whole life. So that's why this union Democrat, along with many of my local union members, will be voting Trump this November.
Want to know where your hard-working, bust-your-ass tax dollars are going? Here you go. You're going to love this one. Abati Fatah Yusuf, however you pronounce his name, is a Somalian immigrant, and he was found guilty of defrauding the Medicaid system $7.2 million.
Gavin Newsom, because I know you'd miss me so much, I didn't want to go a day apart. So you sent a post about Trump ruining the White House because he's trying to make a beautiful ballroom at the White House. This coming from you is hysterical to me. Have you been through the Palisades? Have you seen all the destruction? I mean, surely you rebuilt all the homes, right? Did you?
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett. There's a big race in Middle Tennessee. My friend Matt Van Epps is running against a lady who...
So Gavin Newsom and his wife actually created an organization just to steal some of the fire aid money. Like, how this man is still governor of California and not behind bars is fucking mind-blowing. So I'm sure most of you have heard about the fire aid controversy, you know, where they had this concert to raise $100 million for the victims of the Palisade fires. And people started asking, hey, where the fuck did all that money go? Because there's not a single person who was a victim of the Palisade fires who's seen a cent of it. And through some investigative journalism, what we found is that they distributed the money in 2 rounds. Now, the first round just went to just a fuckload of NGOs. Like, some of them have nothing whatsoever to do with fire recovery, but they handed out $50 million apparently to all these corporations, and nobody did a fucking thing. Money under round 2, you saw this little organization called Cal Volunteers. Now, that organization is no longer listed as a recipient on the website. Funny how once the story broke, they took their name off the website. I mean, that doesn't look guilty at all. But Cal Volunteers is an organization that was recently created by Gavin Newsom and his wife.
235 days since the House passed the SAVE Act, which would secure our elections. Look, the Constitution's clear. You can provide some integration and some framework for our elections. Voter ID, things like that, but the Senate's not moving on it. What is going on here?
Quiero utilizar la campaña de la administración Biden sobre el tema del tren de Aragua. Yo sobre eso tengo una posición muy clara.
Just so we are clear, if a foreigner comes to your country and demands that you accept their culture as your culture or demands that you change your beliefs, that is not a foreigner. That is not an immigrant. What that is an invader.
It's going to be a bumpy ride, a bumpy season, guys. So hang tight. Just put your seatbelt on. Grab your popcorn if you can stop and just have a little popcorn break from time to time. But it is going to be a really bumpy ride, guys, because all of this stuff, should it all come out, because President Trump, he is on a roll. He's never done this before, posting double videos. So he'll post a video. He'll post it 16 seconds later. He'll post the video again. And is it for emphasis that please watch this video? So that's why I wanted to give you clips. And if you wanted to go to his page, please go to his truth page so that you can see the videos in full. Have a beautiful day. God bless you all. Thanks so much for watching and sharing this video, and I will have a show tomorrow. Aloha.